Hello and welcome to this special session on World Earth Day 2025. As you all know, World Earth Day is celebrated each year on April 22nd. Today we celebrate not just the beauty of our planet, but also the critical need to protect and preserve it for future generations. Earth Day is a reminder that we all share this incredible planet, and it's up to each of us to make choices that ensure its survival and well-being. As we reflect on the theme of this year's Earth Day, Our Power, Our Planet, we'll be diving into the important conversations about the challenges we face, the progress we have made, and the vital actions we must take to secure a better, greener future. We are happy to have with us a very special guest, Priyanka Kanhare, an academician and landscape architect who has dedicated her life to environmental conservation and sustainability. Let me introduce to you Ms. Priyanka Kanhare. Priyanka Kanhare is an academician and a practicing landscape architect. Currently, she is working as a visiting faculty at CEPT University Ahmedabad and Navratna University Vadodara. Besides this, she also conducts workshops informing ways to represent and document intangible cultural heritage of people and places. Currently, she is pursuing her PhD in Faculty of Planning at CEPT University Ahmedabad. Her research interest lies in reading and documenting ecological and cultural manifestations along natural systems, mainly rivers, and the role of planners in managing land adjacent to rivers in urban areas. Priyanka Kanhare has worked on various academic and professional projects dealing with mapping and understanding the associations between biodiversity and urban spaces. She also offers similar workshops at the National Institute of Design and Ahmedabad University, both based in Ahmedabad. Welcome, Ms. Priyanka Kanhare.
Thank you so much.
So let's start the question and answer session straight away. On this World Earth Day, how can we as designers celebrate and restore natural groundwater surface water exchange in our riverfront and lake projects instead of relying on examples from other countries?
So first of all, thank you so much for inviting and for that warm welcome and introduction. So responding to your first question, as you mentioned about the surface hydrology, I think the key reason why we are also facing a lot of trouble in managing our rivers and water systems today is not looking at or respecting the natural drain or the places from where the water comes into these systems. And I think
the source.
The source.
Okay.
So in any water system there is a source and then there is an end. In case of rivers, you have the mountains from where it comes and the sea into which it goes.
Right.
In case of lakes, again you have a higher terrain from where the water comes in and then the lake becomes that end where it kind of flows. But interestingly, sometimes lakes are also connected. So from one lake to the other. So what happens is there is a huge disconnect when we talk about a system at a regional scale and then we talk about system at an urban scale. And I think that is what connects us to the idea that we are discussing this on the World Earth Day, that Earth needs to be looked from above and from far. But what happens in urban areas is we are so close to the system that we kind of forget that the systems lie at large regional scales. So I think respecting the source, the point from where it begins to the point where it ends, and then these in between locations where the pockets are for it to fill the water, becomes a system which one needs to look at, one needs to understand. And this not only is a system which people who are aware about it or have knowledge about it need to look at, but also people who are into decision making, who are responsible for designing along it, needs to look at. It's like you have a straight highway and you suddenly block it. Everything is going to get either jammed or it needs to divert. It's a very simple logic. So water as a natural system just
Are the general
flows.
public also have got a role to play in this?
I think the fact that we are at times more worried about keeping things away from people, and that I think as design schools, when sometimes we do studios and we kind of learn to design, we say that I want to protect this system, so I want to keep people away from it, because we kind of feel that people are the one who caused disaster. Well, yeah, at times, but I think it is equally important to educate people by bringing them as close as they can to these systems.
And early in life.
Early in life.
So you got to involve them.
Yes, so having such initiatives or such tours and trips for children from school, to then involving youngsters who are into design and learning how to design, to even other citizens who are not really from design field, to take them to these systems. So for that very example, when we talk about the riverfront, and I think the memory that people of the city have with the river and the river earlier was of a very different kind. So here we talk about 3 generations, people who are extremely old, who had seen the river in its most natural state, to we who are in this in between of having seen the old and now trying to accept the past. Exactly.
To the very both
yes. So for us to even accept a lot of things sometimes becomes very difficult because it's about adjusting.
It takes time.
Yes, but if you take this example to the young children or the school going or the young college going kids,
you can mold them.
You can mold them. They see a system, they are able to go till the river, they are able to go till lake fronts, they are able to go till then, and that educates them about taking care of it.
They don't have any preconceived notion.
Exactly. So the idea that these places are dumping sites and that they're kind of barriered is something that one needs to not do it. So it's important to educate people about this and bring them more closer to these systems rather than always keeping them away from it.
Right. Now for all this, do you think we rely on other countries for examples, and now we feel the need to be self-reliant?
Yeah. So I think interestingly, many successful projects, because they were also in a way through technology more advanced, you do see these examples in the countries abroad,
and I think of us.
Yes, so in some way we do see them as examples, but the problem begins when you try and replicate that example directly in our context, because we have a very different social and cultural construct.
So it has to be seen in that perspective.
Exactly. So it's and I think in a way if we put the positive part of it, because people travel, they are able to see new things, they are able to see more things, and then there are aspirations. But everything cannot end up to aspiration and be replicating. Exactly. So I think it is fine for common man or women to have aspirations, to dream of having something of this sort around our systems, but it is we, the designers or the policy makers or the decision makers, who need to then find a link through it, that put it in the proper perspective, put it in proper practice, and then be able to do the best for the system. Because I personally believe that nature will always exist, we will perish. I mean, I always believe in that idea. It will mold, it will change its course, it will become something else. We are the ones who will perish. So we don't have to worry about the system that way, but the more we respect, the more we can stay in harmony with it.
And we have to adapt ourselves.
Yes.
So you feel that have we become self-reliant, or still a long way to go?
I think we have kind of become self-reliant, but
still a lot needs to be done.
I mean, there are moments when we feel it may not just be about a resource that we are kind of all by ourselves, or like for the very reason, like we need water, we need air, but it is also about a good livability. I mean, to live happily, to live healthy, to live in a good city where you have all these things which are healthy. So it's not just about going to see a river and water. It's not about going to a lake to see water. It's also to see that system is so healthy and natural. And I think for everyone, this shock came during COVID, where we were not meeting anybody, we were not socializers, all the public spaces were put a full stop on. All we had left with was nature around us. And I think in some way that brought that sensitivity back.
That gave a lesson.
That
made us realize.
Yes, that everything around us is exactly the way it was and going on. It's we who were at a full stop.
Destroyed it,
So I think that is some such moments always.
So we have made a beginning towards this self-reliance.
Yes, and I feel that I mean, when I see the younger kids in school today, the way they are sensitive about environment, the way their education is including all of these things, I'm sure I look towards a very bright future of they then becoming adults and respecting this. So I see a very positive part of it.
Okay. Now talking about preaching and practicing. Now how can you build a connection between what you preach and what you practice, especially when developing sensitivity towards Earth's natural processes and living along them?
Yeah. So I think my sensitivity to this began when I studied landscape. And I mean, that is a part of the education which always kind of brings that enlightenment to you. But having said that, I mean, in my research and in my practice, I kind of felt at points that bit of helplessness, that, you know, I know the problem, but what will we do about it? I mean, there are always, you know, there's always subjective part to it, that we may want to do something, but probably the resources or probably the decisions around it do not let it happen. But I still believe, because I'm very positive, that I mean, there have been moments in my academic teaching career where I teach these studios which are on how well do we live with natural systems in urban areas. So in a way, through teaching, I'm able to educate those young students who would then graduate and become office bearers, or, you know, kind of reach a point or position in their life where if they have developed this sensitivity, at that point they are able to take those things sensitively rather than not informing them anything about it.
Training them very early in life.
Training them very early in life. And even when I practice as a landscape architect, a lot of emphasis on importance of these natural systems, importance of educating the client about it, that, you know, I mean, I get what you want, but probably just by doing this, I mean, one very small example, we're doing this one project in Pavagadh, next to the temple, and there was a lake. And that lake was in an extremely deteriorated condition because of the amount of people who come to Pavagadh and visit.
And they throw garbages.
Yes, exactly. So they openly defecate and urinate into that lake, and it has become very bad. So while we were working on trying to build a project report for the client, I told them that it would be great if you can, as a very positive aspect of this, also take care of that lake, because I mean, I know it's not a part of your project, but it's right next to your project. So as a goodwill, if that could be done, and I was so happy that the client immediately agreed, and he also saw potential in it. He said that it's not just about my project sitting there, it's also about a system there, which if it is dirty and deteriorated, no one will use my whatever I built.
Yeah, so particularly in a sacred, near a sacred
place.
Yes.
So he agreed, and I was constantly telling a lot of my peers that, you know, you do these dream academic projects in college, and like after so many years, I actually got that kind of a project to do in practice. And I think it is about the way you communicate to people that things do happen. I mean, nobody is so hell-bent on not doing.
An example,
It's like nobody is so hell-bent on not wanting to do something. It's about how do you pitch it, how do you communicate it. So I think that's important. Yes.
So what you and that person who did that project, I think, was something very practical.
Yes.
So now people visiting the temples will have a clean lake.
And that will become more like an example, because in that entire region there are many such lakes, because in the entire hills and the foothills of Pavagadh, because of the terrain, there are small depressions and multiple such lakes.
Can be replicated.
Exactly. So it's a very sustainable thing, and not that if the client is doing or not, but it's even something that the administrative authorities there could pick it up. So it's a very non-invasive way of protecting a system. And interestingly, when it comes to protecting nature and even try to build around it, there are very few restrictions, if I put it that way, compared to maybe you are conserving a building. There are too many restrictions. You can't build here, you can't do this. In terms of nature, it's just about it's like it's just there. You just need to know the correct veins, and then you can just work on it, work with it, and it will just sustain on its own.
I think if you wait for the administration to make a beginning, it might take a bit longer. But if some such projects are taken by individuals out of their own interest, the administration might pitch in.
And I think a lot of times, maybe even in the administrative bodies, you do not have that expertise to kind of tell. So all the time we sit on the other side of the table and say that they're not doing this, but probably they don't know how to do it. It also could be the reason.
Or the know-how.
Yes. But I mean, personally, I have always felt that people in decision making, people in power positions, have always been very encouraging in terms of listening to such possibilities, pitching the practical questions, but then still wanting to make a difference to the
very
environment and nature.
Very contrary to what the people assume or perceive about them. Okay. Now, given the fragmented mandates of irrigation departments, municipal corporations and panchayats, how can designers act as Earth's boundary spanners to unite agencies around a shared vision of sustainable systems stewardship.
Yeah, so I think this is also, I think in some way connecting back to my initial statement that I began with, that a lot of people in decision making or position of power look at these systems as a silo in an urban situation. So you know, if I have to deal with one lake in Ahmedabad, I will look at only that one lake.
Okay.
But you fail to realize that it's not just one lake, it's a system of lakes. Okay, so decisions sometimes for this system have to be taken at a regional scale. Okay, so I think now and I think over a period of time, a lot of involvement of expertise has begun. People who are aware of environment, people who are aware of this water and a lot of these things have become a part of this. Specialized courses, specialized people.
Which was not the case some years back.
Yes.
So that itself shows that things are changing.
Yes. So that involvement in the decision making, or even asking them to prepare a report, asking them to do something is I feel a very positive step towards reducing this fragmented decision or reducing this fragmentation between various departments. And I think in a way that is one of the drawbacks also that we have in our system, where each department works in a silo, and when that each department works in a silo, you either are just communicating between them or you are just trying to take decisions from one place to the other without proper coordination or without understanding these systems at regional scale. And I think I always kind of go back to this, you know, the earth and the ice age and a lot of those discussions, and I'm like, we're like just so small. We hardly matter sometimes, like looking at the size of the earth, or you know, the globe is so small, but we are the ones who are making a lot of difference. So we do matter, but how much and how better can it be?
Okay. Now this Earth Day, what role can participatory mapping workshops play in translating policy rhetoric into lived ecological realities and fostering adaptive management loops?
So I believe that in this I'm kind of connecting it to the way we write and the way we communicate about these systems. So one is this loophole in the way the statutory documents or any kind of these legal documents, the way they are written, and then the way they are written is what gets communicated and what gets translated. In that way, the participation of mapping, even it be through commoners, through experts, through school children, anybody, I think that vocabulary of communicating the importance of these systems.
What exactly do you mean by mapping in this context?
In this context, I mean mapping in two ways. One is the tangible mapping of a system. So when we say that we have a particular lake, for example, and we are mapping which are the existing trees around it, what is the kind of soil, what are the kind of birds you see.
Take everything into account.
Yes, so that's a tangible mapping of it. How many people come there, what are the people's associations with them and things like that. So the physical tangible mapping of this sort sometimes also becomes an important document for anybody to take decisions then on. In absentia of that document, there is always a, you know, like you kind of shove it under the carpet by saying that, oh, we don't know this, we didn't know this, because it is not held in records. So that physical tangible mapping is something that helps.
So but that becomes a half-baked effort.
Yes. But in connection to that, there is also an intangible mapping, which is through stories.
What's that?
Stories, narratives, associations. So sometimes, you know, people say that, oh, that's that one important tree that we have next to the lake, and for years we have been sitting there. Who maps those stories? Who maps those associations? So I feel, there are so many authors, there are so many good storytellers who have experimented these ways of mapping in order to tell the stories. So one of the example I will give is when I was working with this workshop in NID, I was working with graphic designers, I was working with animation students who were into films, and then this one student who was into fabrics, and I gave them all the freedom to use their background or understanding to tell a story. And I still remember there was a group of 3 boys from who were doing their masters in animation. They actually through words tried to create a visual narrative and a movie of what the river feels. So they said when the river is flowing from the Aravallis, she's very happy. And she's very clean, and she's just enjoying and things. By the time she comes to the city, she's kind of stopped. She's not very happy. So it was very interesting to see.
And very innovative.
Very innovative. So they did projection mapping, and we were amazed because they were trying to tell a story of a river through these words, and it was their domain. Now, had they not done this, one, it would not have got recorded. Second, they as designers would not have got this sensitivity to tell or look from this some other lens and tell a story. So I think mapping as a word could be exploited as much as you want. And I feel the more different experts, different type of people get involved, different types of mappings could come out, and once that happens, different perspectives kind of come in.
Makes more interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Now talking about mapping, tangible or intangible, and you just mentioned trees and also I'm just reminded of Kabir Wad. There's a tree in a place called Kabir Wad, where the folklore goes that Saint Kabir had come there, and his footprints are there. Is there any mapping done about that tree?
So interestingly, I was born in Baroda, but then I spent first 2 years of my life in Bharuch, and I have pictures at Kabir Wad. So we did one studio long back in 2015, which was on Kabir Island. So I actually have some prints that my students did back then on mapping the story of Kabir Wad. Now it's a beautiful place. It's a huge tree. It's I think a 2.53 acre large one tree.
It's a banyan tree, so obviously it is spread,
But so when I took the students there and they saw it, we had this interesting conversation that the mother trunk is missing. You don't know because it kind of fell, it kind of swam away and things like that. So when those students did this mapping, they did the mapping of the entire island of Kabir Wad. So somewhere the story also extended out of the Kabir Wad and just the popular narrative to the actual physical mapping of it. That how do you feel when you stand below its canopy? What kind of light comes in? And I think that kind of tangible, intangible mapping is something that develops sensitivity in them. And then eventually, for my sheer happiness, one or two of them ended up doing masters in landscape because they just suddenly were introduced to environment for the first time in this way. One of the students, I still remember, he was awarded a prize for his final year project, which was on these similar lines, and I was extremely proud that he tried to do something and it was accepted and it was appreciated. So a lot of this comes from even places which are lesser known. So then there the story was actually not about Narmada.
Talking about this banyan tree at Kabir Wad, I am reminded of another banyan tree. It's supposed to be the oldest banyan tree in the world at the Theosophical Society of India in Chennai. So are you aware of any mapping being done?
No, not really of that, but in Baroda, through one of my friend Pragya, she had initiated this through a research program at Navrashna, and then I was for a very brief period part of it. So there is a Vadodara, as they call it, the word. Although the story is slightly different, but that's how it's.
Gujarati word means banyan tree.
So that's how the popular story of that place has been. So she did, and I think along with a couple of students and all, we did a mapping of word of Vadodara. So we do have a website for that, and what we did was we made it as a public initiative where we asked all the people and send them QR code. So all you had to do was click a picture in Baroda wherever you see a banyan tree and send it, and then we were geo mapping it. So there was an online website on which we were geo tagging it. I think we managed to tag some 2,000 word trees, and interestingly when we checked it with the corporation records, they said we actually don't have any such mapping. So in that way, this public initiative, although began as a small academic project, but then extended to people, and I think the project is still going on. And I think yesterday when I was in Baroda, I did see so many of those trees marked with these red signboards.
So work is going on.
Yes. So I think their target is to eventually map, and I'm sure there are more than 5,000 banyan trees in Baroda currently. So I think that kind of initiative is also a way of mapping.
I think advancement in technology also helps,
and rightly using it. Yes.
Okay. Now, as we celebrate Earth's gifts today, which ecological indicators such as native bird counts or groundwater rise should become performance metrics in every landscape brief?
Okay, so that's like asking what is one medicine you take when you get fever. It's not that simple. I would put it rather in a little different way that when we talk about India, it's so diverse in its landscape that there could be like 12, 13 different countries, weathers put together, and it's India.
And that's because
it's extremely
India is a vast
diverse.
country,
Yes.
yeah.
So I think a way could be that depending on the various regions, what is the, and I think there is also a need to clarify the idea that there is something called ecology and then there is something called biodiversity.
Correct.
So, we at times kind of mix up a lot of these terms here and there. But I think if people who are into that expertise or education are able to put these terms correctly, and then they are able to identify that, okay, if it is the connection between a certain kind of species and its dependency on water or land for food, for trees for shelter, and then it is a microclimate that it gets created, and if all of that is fine and you do not need an external agency like humans or any system to monitor and keep this cycle going, there is ecology, there is biodiversity.
It will be more relevant.
It will be more relevant. So I would say that we should not generalize any kind of such matrix, because there are many guidelines, there are many matrix to do everything, but I think it is more region specific, it's more area specific. And I think the way landscape studios are taught at CEPT, we begin with this one forest, which is like looking at a particular kind of forest as a system. Then I think the semester 2 that my co-tutor Chandrani and I, we teach, which is on lakes, and we're looking at lake as well, so another water system. Then there is another set which does parks and gardens, so you suddenly shift to urban and you're talking of urban setups, and then the parameters are different to see if the system is healthy. To the one that Deepa ma'am takes as a very famous studio, it's called Designed Ecologies, where she again extends it out to different ecologies around the country, and seeing that here, because of these reasons, these things are happening, so you need to take care of this system and let it live.
And
on
India is
its
a
own.
vast country, you have biological diversity also.
Yes.
Right, okay.
So I think that's how it should actually be.
Correct. Now, does deforestation also come into the picture?
Yes.
In
so
what way does it affect it?
So interestingly, yesterday we were discussing, and this is one of the current studios that we have in Udaipur. We have a lake that we are working on, and we found an old map from the 1800s in the palace of Udaipur. That
Pichola?
Yes, no, that's not our site. Our site is Gordhan Sagar.
Okay.
So, I mean, for the last 2 years, I've been working on lakes of Udaipur. So interestingly, when we look at the 1800 map and then the current map, there has been an extensive deforestation and mining of the Aravalis just to clear up land for buildings. Okay. So it is, and then it becomes very important to see this change in plan, that mountains are going away, forests are going away, and the entire cycle is kind of becoming so dependent on we to induce some system within it so that it keeps going, or becomes so tamed that without you putting in water in that lake will never have its own water, whereas earlier the system was there. So I think forests, or for that matter any kind of vegetation, plays an extremely important role, because it is these systems who keep that microclimate going. They hold the soil in a certain way, they provide food and shelter to almost all the natural beings there. And so if we do not respect the existing forest, and you end up doing deforestation, and then you just want to replant some random species which were never a part of that system, you are shifting the entire natural system into something that is not going to then sustain.
It will be artificial, yeah.
Yes, so afforestation done in a wrong way is equally a problem as deforestation. So the initiative might be extremely good, but the procedure is extremely wrong.
As well not have done it.
Yes.
So you mean to say, like you said, like you rightly said during the start of the interview, that nature has been very kind enough to provide us with everything. It's we human beings who play an important role in things getting deteriorated.
I would not actually put it that way, because I mean, I remember one of my professor, Mr. Pratyush Shankar, he always says that if you don't clear the forest, where will you live? You'll not live in jungle. You need a city to live.
I think somewhere you need to create a balance.
Exactly. So I think that balance is very important. And so people who are involved in decision making, people who are involved in designing, they all need to be sensitive to this system and takes decisions which are sustainable, ecological sustainability. So there's this graph which, when it comes to its epic, or comes to its highest point, after which it begins to degrade
arbitrarily. You need to have a balanced approach. I think the state of Kerala has been quite successful in this.
In that way,
maintain the greenery at the same time, wherever required, they have remove the trees
for me, one of the most amazing examples in the country is the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Like long back when I went there, I remember they had a tsunami and they realized that the forest, the mountains, everything is very important for them. So they do not use additional electricity for the times when they genuinely don't need it. They do not accept any kind of mismanagement of garbage or any kind of plastics on that island. They take decisions like, only a few amount of or few number of people will be allowed to go to XYZ tourist places to keep it in control. Which compared to the northeast in our country is exactly the opposite, right? Bring in as many people as you want. We need to uplift this place. So there is something called a carrying capacity of a place. And I think it's only when extreme disasters occur is when people realize that the carrying capacity reached its epitome, where everything became a problem. So nature's cycle, and nature exactly behaves the way it has always been. It's just that our processes have aggravated or increased the pace of certain activities to happen. Now if we are able to live with that in harmony, respect certain decisions that we take in a more sustainable manner, I think it will be completely wrong to say that it's we who destroy. It's rather we who are intelligent enough to know to live with it. So we need to just do a little bit of our role reversal to not look at ourselves as people in power to do anything and everything, but rather be in harmony with these systems.
Talking about Northeast, I recently watched a clip, a village in Nagaland, which is supposed to be the greenest village in India. So you say that Northeast behaves slightly different from...
No, so by Northeast, what I actually meant was the amount... So not just the Northeast, but when we talk about the Char Dham and those places, so it's like more towards Northeast, or the way they are increasing and encouraging tourism in Northeast, which is not wrong, which is great, or the way they have extensive tourism happening in Leh, Ladakh, and we kind of see a lot of those visuals that there was a traffic jam due to some landslide, but then later also there were traffic jam because of so many people coming to that place, and there's extensive amount of vehicle and pollution and a lot of these things. I think it is important that these locations become accessible, because then you're not putting pressure only on a few places as tourist places, but how much are you going to allow? So I think those caps and those calls at such fragile landscapes, so like when you talk of Northeast, I've been to Arunachal and Shillong and those 2-3 places. I've been to Meghalaya. It is very inviting, it's amazing, it's beautiful, but where is the cap? Like in certain season, how many people do you allow to come? Some places they have managed, but not everywhere. Now to say that don't have tourism there or don't let people come in there is also wrong, because then it's a source of income. They need to balance. So I think the balance is what needs to be taken care of.
Okay. Now how can we shift from measuring carbon footprints to designing landscapes? Example, marsh terraces, biomass benches, that actively sequester carbon and honor Earth's carbon cycle.
So I feel when we talk about the carbon footprint or anything to do with carbon sequestration, it's again not something that you can manage to do it with a small product. It's more of a system. So it is certain decisions at large to do something more at an urban or at a regional scale. Okay, so I feel if we take these decisions more sustainably, looking at a large scale of Earth, and then say that at this scale you need to do these things, but then when it's in the urban you need to do these practices, and then at an individual level you need to do XYZ things. I think decisions have to be at multiple scales. What we fail to do is that we talk of problems which are global, and we try and find solutions which are local, which at times are not something that can be magnified. Yes, to educate an individual and you kind of bring that societal change, it's great, nothing bad with it. But is that the real answer to the problem that we are discussing?
Right.
Probably at times no. So I think that global local kind of connection, if not built in these decisions, it is not going to help you achieve what you eventually want to.
So if this is happening, then who actually finds out or say points out these kind of disparities?
So I think researchers.
Is there any kind of agency or say the ministry?
I think it would be too much to expect from one agency and one government. I feel.
So everyone has to work in coordination.
Yes. So I feel researchers, because they are constantly the ones who are questioning these things, have expertise on these things. But the problem is, if the research only stays in their classrooms or laptops, it's of no use.
Yeah,
so I think bring it out. So multiple forums where such interactions could happen, where such debates could happen, and I mean, connecting to the point of fragmentation. Interactions between these researchers, agencies, intellectuals with the people in decision or power. If these coordinations happen well, then decisions would be taken more sustainability and more quickly
faster
and yes,
also.
in all ways.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like research is happening, researchers are doing, again, it's all in their silo. People in decision making do not have any idea about it at times, and they're like, no, but we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this, and everything is happening. So again, the two are always at contrast. So I think that contrast is not something that will help. It has to merge. It has to merge with each other.
Now, are the opinions of these researchers and findings being taken seriously?
Yes.
Are they being listened to?
Yes. So I think in that way, the research shift in our country today, it's developing nationally as well as globally.
Okay.
I'm sure we have a say in a lot of things today. I mean, even if you look at the government's grants to do research, to a lot of private and to a lot of institutional agencies wanting to fund research.
Ministries for all
exactly.
Which was not the case some years back. Yeah.
So, and it is also something that cannot happen immediately, but at least good steps have been taken. And as important institutions, like I could give example of CEPT. Since I'm a part of it, or even in Navrashna for that very matter. In Navrashna also we have something called Khoj, which is which happens every winter, and it's on dealing with societal and urban level issues through research, faculties and students, and trying to resolve some problem. Right. So it could be like, I remember one of my colleague there, she was working on trying to develop a device which could predict lightning before the lightning kind of happened, to predict the intensity, to prevent people from the hazard of it and things like that. To some of them who are looking at the fish species diversity in the lakes in Baroda, and saying how it is the people in the neighborhood who are either creating problems for it or are supporting it. So many of them. So Baroda also has many lakes that way. So institutions like these, for like in CEPT, we have the research symposiums happening. We have so many MOUs being signed between the studios and the other technical bodies with governments and ministries. So I think if such important and key institutes also begin to play an important role in instigating this research and these interactions, I'm sure there is a way ahead in trying to deal with a lot of these.
I think these are specialized fields, but still I feel that information about these kind of institutions and projects need to be told to the general public also. Yes. Because I think the general public is not aware of this thing called Khoj and all, which is I mean, that's news to me also. I didn't know about it.
Interestingly, people in Baroda definitely know it now, because they have been doing this for the past 3-4 years, and it gets in the newspaper. Even the school children are bought to see this exhibition. So the exhibition is almost up for 10-15 days. Similarly, in the research symposium at CEPT, we as students now, or even as faculties, we encourage our younger graduates or other undergrad students to come and listen to this research, be able to present your work at a public forum, have those kind of interactions. And I think I'm able to give example of these two places because I personally belong to these places. But I'm sure there are so many other bodies and agencies who kind of, so I'm a part of ISOLA, Indian Society of Landscape Architects. There also we are having an international conference happening in Mumbai in November, where people from all over the world are going to come, and it's called the Growth Paradox, and there are going to be people presenting their paper, and research is there.
Going to be a world convention.
Yes. Similarly, they have it for ICOMOS. Similarly, we have it for ISVS, where people on vernacular studies are coming and putting in papers. So I feel people who are active enough and are wanting to share their knowledge and want to build this whole community up, I think they definitely are aware of a lot of these things happening. I mean, I for that very matter know so many of my juniors who are in their masters and things. They've all got grants, they've all got incentives to further education, to do research, to go abroad, and a lot of these things. So I
things
think
are improving.
Things are getting much better.
Yeah.
Yes,
Moving faster.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Okay. Now, finally, what one commitment will you ask every designer to make this Earth Day move beyond short-sighted fixes and towards true ecological harmony?
Okay, so again, I don't want to make this sound like a preach, but architects work at architects work at a certain scale, which is like a building at a point. Okay, planners work at scales which are slightly bigger than and at regional. Landscape architects again work at regional. So I believe that if we look at each profession and its individuality, there is something to contribute to.
Okay.
So be it at an intersection of, I mean, I keep giving example of the river because that's my core research subject, but for an architect to know how to make sure that the urban water that falls from rain on the road easily goes into the city, and if your building sits there and it's that intersection, your job is kind of done. Similarly, you preach or teach or show examples of building through using sustainable materials, sustainable practices, something that is less hazardous to the environment, and use of those things, and even advance that in technological advancements. It's something that those designers could do. Similarly, when it comes to planning or landscape architects, their role at regional scale, their role at policy making, their role as expertise of that scale and trying to, put it both in theory and practice is something that they can do. Similarly, when it comes to designers who are, say, into graphics and visual, and we started with this idea of mapping and narratives, the way they draw, the way they represent, the way they develop graphics. I mean, for that very matter, when we go to a zoo, and if there is a beautiful infographic explaining us how this animal is taken care of here, that visual graphic itself can give you so much of knowledge, or that, for that matter, a storybook. So I feel designer at all these junctures, whichever profession they are from, there is enough for them to kind of communicate to and try and do their little bit in trying to do the larger good, and not just aspire to do a larger good and fail to do it at that one point where you as an expertise or as a designer can. So it would be wrong to say that everybody should do this, but identify in your domain what is it that you can do. And I think if you constantly keep doing, I think it's the perseverance. Then you need to constantly keep doing and evolving, and if you keep doing it, then it definitely reaches the right goal, or wherever you intend this to make an impact correctly.
Now, talking of public involvement and say public awareness and all, recently, in Ooty, this is a very recent happening there. The government, the administration wanted to construct something there, a civil construction. Now, people there, they have an association which vehemently opposed this construction, citing the reason that this construction might have a bearing on the lake, and that in future will be very harmful to the place and the people there. So I think such kind of awareness is growing, and people are involving through various agencies and associations. So,
but I just have one take on that. I mean, it's great that people are becoming sensitive, and I think that idea that I was saying, that it's high time we keep people away from these things and make them involved. We only see these things as a binary at times, that there is an agency, or there's a body who wants to do something, and then there is a body who does not want to do something, does not want it to happen. We see it as a binary. I feel it should not be seen as a binary. It should be seen as a more productive way, that okay, you are saying that certain things should not be done, but then when certain things will have to be done, where do they marry? So is it a good technical expertise which will help you to marry the two? Is it the policy level of clarity in terms of the way things are written and mandated is where you make them to marry? Or where where anything else but just an initiative or trying to understand the other and kind of trying to work and make them to marry. So I feel it at times deteriorates a lot of things and builds up a lot of anti for both the bodies then. Where people start realizing
the animal bodies,
yes,
there's a body which says that people should be protected from animals, and there's a body which says that animals should be protected.
So in a way both are right, in a way both are wrong. So there is the binary.
I think the opposing groups can meet and then sort it out. They can sit across the table and find out an amicable solution.
Because I mean, as a part of my research, when I was interacting with people in a way from both the bodies, I realized that when we always say, it's the government who does not understand anything and they only want to do this, but they have a very different perspective to a lot of these things. Sometimes they are not even aware of something else. So it is important to listen to the two, kind of build a bridge. But again, having said that, not all governments have enough sensitivity, state governments have enough sensitivity to lot of systems in their own city. Some places the governments really are very sensitive to these things and they do take decisions of that sort. In that way, I would say for our particular state, the leadership, the positioning of the leadership, the decision making of it has been in that way very, very sustainable, and in that way very open to listening to a lot of suggestions from experts and designers and a lot of these things.
The other states can take it
exactly. So sometimes you can also take certain things as role models in terms of. So here, as I said, the problem is not in one wanting to do, the other not wanting to do. The problem is in the way the decision making happens, the less transparency of these things that happen, which leads to nothing happening for a very long time.
If a particular state doesn't have the resources or the expertise, they can always draw these resources and expertise from the other states. And I think in India, within the country, states are willing to help each other.
True.
Okay, now if I ask you to sum up the entire thing in one line, what would you like to tell the viewers?
Oh my God, like so much, and that too from me in one line is
not exactly one
challenge.
Line, in brief,
Yeah, so I feel we need to look down in a way that we read the ground, we read the land, we read the earth, and not just look up always and have a vision and move. If you can build that connection between observing what is there and then having a vision and then make sure they both meet, it might lead to better sustainable solutions and practice. So reading of the land is what I believe in very well. It gives you all the answers.
Okay, it's been such a pleasure having this conversation with you, Priyanka Kanhare.
Thank you so much.
Your insights are incredibly valuable, and I'm sure our viewers will leave today inspired to take their own steps towards a more sustainable world.
Thank you.
As we
so
wrap
much
up,
for inviting me.
Let's remember that World Earth Day isn't just a day of reflection. It's a call to action. And every small effort we make can contribute to a much larger positive change. Thank you again, Priyanka, for sharing your expertise and knowledge with us today. And a big thanks to the viewers for tuning in. Let's continue working together to protect and nurture our planet. Happy Earth Day.
Thank you.